such an incredible ride. The journey throughout that, it's just, I felt like my eyes are just glued to the screen the whole time, and I just want to know what's happening and how it's going to end, and the story that you've crafted. There's so much for us to talk about, but I'm going to save it all. And I know you, and you've been making films in this space for a long time, and so I think it would be nice for our audience to have a bit of history and context into how you came into making films in VR chat, where this journey started for you, and what inspired you to make a music video.
Thank you. So I first started out in VR when I was, at the tender age 16, and I knew immediately that this medium was a glorious amateur filmmaking tool that no one was using. And so there's all these different sets and everything you could use. So when I was around 16, 17, I made my first VR film. It's called Us and Them. It was with the hyena community at the time when they existed. I'm just kidding. They still exist. So I did that, and then I got into the Shibas, and I made some shorts in the middle of COVID, and then I made the first, or not first, but one of the really good feature films of VR chat with Rectal Bisque. He's right there. And then from there, just working on Survivor. Witchcraft was one of those projects I wanted to make for a very long time. And I saw, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, they're an Australian. You can't even call it prog rock because they do everything. They just released a techno album. They do everything, like environmental thrash or whatever. So I'm a huge fan of them, basically obsessed. And I knew that I wanted to make a music video of them. I didn't know what, but I knew they were releasing a new album, and it was thrash, environmentalist thrash, and their second time doing it. And so I was like, ooh, we can do this. So I saw them in Chicago earlier in the year, and that's when they were showing some of the first time they were showing some of the tracks from that new album, and they played a Witchcraft for, I think, the second time ever before the album released, and I knew immediately I had to make a video of that. And actually, small little side fact, that exact concert is in one of their live albums. So if you want to hear the exact time they played Witchcraft and what that made me want to make this, it's on there. It's up there.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that kind of seed of the inspiration. And I'm so pleased that if you want to hear where that inspiration came from, then you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
It's all there.
Yeah. Now, I think I speak for everyone when I say that your use of mixed media in this video is so incredible and just infectious and so exciting to watch. And so that's really what I want to dig into first. There's a clear story structure. You present these characters, this world, and there's this. It feels like there's acts to the video, and I love that you've written story into the song and for this video. I'm curious about the different languages that you've presented in the film, within animation, live action, and so on. To speak to the psychedelic elements, I know that you've been doing psychedelic visual work for a while. This isn't your first rodeo when it comes to that sort of animation and that sort of language. So I'd like to touch upon that specifically first. How did you discover your animation style, and how did you want to approach this video with it?
Yeah, of course. So when I first started doing I first started doing, you can't even call it animation, it was more like slideshow when I was 14. And then as I got older, of course, I started doing that. But then I got into Pink Floyd, the band, and that just catalyst of different 60s music and bands like Jefferson Airplane, The Doors. And I started making artwork at first of just not some people are like, oh, did you have some kind of acid trip? And then all of a sudden you just into it. No, I've never done that. But yeah, so I started making the art, and I started incorporating that into my animations, and that just kind of became my thing. And I loved, and even in high school, we'd have little art shows, and I'd be doing psychedelic art all over it, and people were like, so do you take the funny paper? I'm like, no. I've never done that, and I love the reaction every time. It's like, what? You're doing this with a sober mind? What's wrong with you? What's always your secret? So that's kind of how I got started. But with this, Again, I'd already done a little bit of VR psychedelic work. I did that with Assassination, making that whole scene where the detective trips out on Applebee's. But with this, King Gizzard makes amazing music videos, and the main guy behind it is Jalsim Galia. I don't know how to say his name, but like he has been making their music videos since day one, and he and I are almost completely the same. He does analog work, he does 2D animation, he does live action, he does all these things that I do, and he incorporates them in his videos like all the time that for Gizzard. And I felt like I just needed to do that. Now he does 3D stuff. I can't do that. That's the only thing I can't do. But yeah, like, see, I wanted to make a video of Gizzard that not only incorporated, you know, the basic storylines of that environmentalist thrash album. The album has quite a name. You can look it up, but I'll just say Petro Dragonic Apocalypse. It's a very long name, but yeah. So I just I wanted to incorporate that, and also Galia's mixed media as well, because I do almost exactly everything that he does.
I see. Well, it's nice that you've really taken inspiration there. And you say that you don't do 3D, but I think there's so much 3D in this video. I mean, with VR chat specifically, of course, it's a sort of, it's a similar sort of 3D, but you've got such an achievement there. Absolutely. Now, we had a conversation before for another conversation for the festival, and you said one of my favorite quotes of that whole conversation, which was, "I am studying to be a storyboard artist, but I did not storyboard this video at all." And it always stuck with me because it sounds like you had such an organic process with making this. And so I'm curious about that. I'm curious if you can share if there's an order to your workflow. Did you do the animation, like the concrete animations first, and then shoot the VR chat second, or was it all created kind of alongside each other and then jammed in the edit?
Yeah, no, good question. I kind of, most of my projects is funny enough. Again, I've been taught this certain way of how to work things, but I kind of just go with the flow, and that goes with my art, and it goes with most stuff. So of course, I listen to the song probably 50 times, and then I think of okay, what's going on at this point and this point, and it's kind of sometimes I go chronologically, sometimes I go all over the place. Actually, the first thing I did for this video was, and people tell me it's the best moment of the film, is when you got the close up on one of the sorcerers with the goat eyes, and it's going all around. That was the very first thing I did for the short, and so it's kind of just all over the place. That's kind of how I went along with it.
So it sounds like did you shoot VR chat and some animation as well, and it was all kind of happening simultaneously, and you just allowed your creativity to blossom, it sounds like, which is a wonderful process.
Yeah, pretty much. Just you got one bit here, work on this bit here. Some things are left towards the end. Like the animation, the 2D animation was left towards the end, and the analog, that was all towards the end, because I had to make the whole sequence and then play it through. So that's how I did that.
Right. I wanted to now touch upon that specific scene, actually. I'm surprised to hear it's one of the earlier scenes, because it's also one of my favorite moments. It is so iconic. And my first question is it's clear that you've collaborated with some really talented artists to bring your avatars to life. And so if you want to mention any names or collaborators there, I'd be so curious to hear how you approach the avatars. And on top of that, with that sequence in particular, how did you achieve such well-polished lip syncing as well?
Okay, well, I mean, credit is due where it's due, and everyone did amazing. But the avatars, so the sorcerer, that was from Assassination. So that was meant for something else. But I thought I was like, I need something that's I can use, and also is kind of magic or witch kind of feeling. And so I used the sorcerer or the cult member from Assassination, and then I literally just went to public and looked okay, which ones seemed like a really cool. What? Things like seem like a really cool idea. Like, I mean, things to use. Like, so the television, the robots, those were just a public avatar I found. And of course, you know, like I forgot the creator's name, but he's in there. So yeah, it was more of like, again, just like found stuff that I brought together. But most of the visual effects work was pretty much me. And there were some instances where, you know, and this is a trick I did back in my first film. You know, you do a static shot, you green screen everything except for the actors. I mean, except for the avatars, and like it'll just be me duplicating it myself until you have like a whole crowd. Now, of course, I did have help. I have Bisk, Petey, Drowns, Ploopster, Exelon, all these guys that helped out in some of the acting. But yeah, it was great to kind of go back on some of those old techniques. But on your question about lip sync, and we talked about this a little bit in your opening ceremony. We talked about this, is that when it comes to, you know, lip sync, you kind of have to, depending on how the avatar is, you have to exaggerate. Now, you asked me if I could find the clip of, you know, from that scene of me I sang the actual quote unquote sang the actual lyrics. But yeah, you kind of have to enunciate your words a lot louder, kind of like with hues of orange. Just, you have to be very loud.
Right. Well, because you have to make sure you get the Visemes correct, right? Is that the reason?
Exactly.
Yeah. So following that scene, I'm kind of going chronologically now, that is the moment we cut dramatically to live action, and you have this really nice, very motivated aspect ratio change, which really suits, you know, the way that you've motivated that scene. One great way that you've justified that transition is with the costume. The costume brings so much cohesion and immediately is relevant to the characters and the other visuals that we've seen. I'd love to hear your direction behind the live action shoot, and if you can paint a picture for us of what that shoot was like as well, because I remember you saying it was particularly hot that day.
Oh yeah, okay, all right. Here's the thing. All right, so so that scene was a process of itself. So I was working on this thing basically towards the end of my summer break before I head back to college, and towards the end it was getting hot, and Halloween was actually coming up, or at least so. It's funny. I had that mask at my house like a long time ago, but then I got rid of it because I didn't need it anymore. It also looked stupid. So I just went all the way back to, like, it was like a Thrill Halloween store, and there was literally, it had just opened. They were still putting up stuff on the shelves, and I was just like, "Hey, do you have this mask?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, just get over there." And so I did. I literally just grabbed like basically the cheapest materials from a Halloween store. And and every single person I called up back in my hometown was busy, except for one guy. And it was the day before I had to leave, before I had to go back. And so, but it was 108 degrees. I don't know what that is in Celsius, but that is really, really hot. And
That's
so,
hot.
but it was the last day. It was my last. And there was no way I could do this and submit it to Raindance in time. So we just went. We went all the way to the edge of town in the desert. My buddy had a cool place, and we just filmed there. He was in that dark black cloak with that mask, and he was holding a book where we actually set on fire. Like, it was. We were there for only an hour, but I swear to God, I thought my camera was going to overheat. It was so hot. But luckily it didn't. And like when we finished, he like took off the mask and he's like drenched in sweat. He's like, "Thank you, Evan. I'm going home now." But we had water. So
good,
that
good.
whole
Thank you for reassuring us. Yeah, and I hope you had a risk assessment too. I'm sure you did.
Yeah,
you needed it. It sounds like. And it's inspiring to know, like, it sounds like you had quite cheap materials in a sense, or at least low budget materials, and, you know, quite kind of scavenged on the day. And I think that's really inspiring, and it's gorgeous in the video. You know, sometimes it's much more about the execution of your production design and your materials than it is about the actual quality and like the material of the materials. So you've used that really well. Now, continuing on, I'm kind of taking like this conversation step by step because there's so much to talk about. So I want to talk about the scene that follows this, which is purely animation. We cut to them, the kind of the Sheba cultists. How would you describe them? What would I name them?
Wizards? Like sorcerers, witches, like
sorcerers.
Just say cultists. Cultist is okay, yeah.
Okay. We cut to the sorcerers, and they're purely animated in this sequence. And at this point, for me as an audience, and I'm curious to hear your perspective, the video really feels transdimensional, and it feels like we're crossing these different realities with these characters, and they're stepping across different mediums in that way. And I'm curious if that is truthful in terms of your intention, and also what inspired you to step out of VR chat and live action and your other form and go purely animation for that moment, if you can shed light.
Yeah, I mean, it was just another kind of another thing, that Jason Gallia did. Like, again, he's done everything live action, all that, and I wanted to incorporate that as well. And 2D animation is, I don't do a lot of 2D animation on my off time, which I've been told, like, don't just do stuff for school, do it for something else. But I'm kind of bad at that. But I thought it was really, I mean, I did want to incorporate a bit more of 2D animation, but we were so close to the deadline that I just I did a little bit, and I also watched a playthrough of Dragon's Lair, and I was like, I'm gonna make it like 80s kind of cartoon, also in the analog bit. So yeah, it's just kind of like I wish it did have more meaning, but that was kind of like something else that I added towards the end. But also in that sequence of like different mediums.
Well, it keeps the excitement, I think, as we're traversing these different mediums. It just feels like it keeps going, and to me, conceptually, it gets bigger as well. I talk about this kind of interdimensional aspect. I don't know if that's really relevant here, but it excites me every time I see it. And I'm sure it's very subjective. Now I want to talk about the sequence that follows this. It's this big group sequence. I feel like you've collaborated with different performers, or maybe you were using NPC systems or more of your copies of yourself. I'm curious. What was your process like in directing the scene towards the end with the group of characters?
Well, yeah, so it was basically like, most of it was kind of not improv, but I was like, okay, so we did I filmed a shot and I'm like, okay, now let's do a shot like this and a shot like this. Some things were planned out, some things were not, but it was again, we didn't use any NPCs because this was just our world, or not our world, it was a different one that we found. But it was, we get a few people on. Most of the time, it was only like, maybe 3 to 5. So if you see like a group shot of like, you got the cats on one side and dogs on the other side, that might be like just 3 people, and then intercut with another 3 people, the same people. There's a lot of intercutting to make things look like there's a lot more people. And that's also the same with the scene where the one dog is sitting on the ground surrounded by the cats. That was green screen stuff, maybe 4 people. We do like, okay, 1 row green screen, 1 row green screen, and same thing on the other side. And so that's how we did that scene. But like, I want to touch on the analog a little bit, because I've been doing analog visuals for like about 3 years, like mainly for like raves and concert visuals and stuff. And that's also something that Jason does very well. So, I thought to incorporate that really well. I plugged in, it goes through my phone all the way through these different big components with switches and buttons, and then it goes into the computer as a video feed. And so again, like we filmed that entire sequence, and then I play it through my phone, and then I do all these like different analog effects I use for my shows into that. And I kind of wanted to make this, some people kind of complain that there's there should be an epilepsy warning, there should be not as much flashing, but I also wanted to make this like a concert visual, like something that would kind of play in the back and immerse people into the music.
Well, it's so effective. The way the video complements the music, I think they're hand in hand. You've really mastered that. So that's a huge achievement. I want to talk more about the visual effects. The visual effects in the end finale always astound me, and I'm curious if any of them were rendered in VR chat using avatars. For example, the scene where one of the heroes is firing these kind of lasers towards the robots. Was it all rendered in VR chat? Was it all composited during post?
It was all composited. It was basically just like them holding out their hand, and then everything else was added on.
I see. I think the analog visuals really help justify that and kind of bring it together. I really love the effect that you've put on the grade, I presume, or the analog style. I think it also lends itself. I'm a bit obsessed with this, but to this like interdimensional concept of like going through different time and different mediums and crossing different mediums. I think it's really justified, and that goes for the aspect ratios too. Now I think I have one more question before we open up for audience questions, and that is, I know you have other things in production at the moment, and I would love to give you the opportunity to share those and anything you'd wish to highlight as well.
Okay, well, before I do that, I do want to talk about a couple things on Witchcraft.
Sure.
If you read the lyrics, when he's, there's a couple moments which is really funny. I barely looked at the lyrics at all, and it somehow worked. Like the scene with the goat eyes when he says like hues of orange and burnt blues, and there's those colors in the scene. And then when he says, like when they start fighting, and it says, "I am Cat Black, knock over the scripture stack, I bring justice." Like I was like, why does this work? I didn't plan this.
Oh, wow. I figured is so in tune that it was planned. I didn't even think to ask. That's amazing.
Oh, that worked. Yeah, like it some things just work. They really do. But yeah, I mean, just Witchcraft is kind of like, again, it was a project I wanted to do like so far in advance, and I was just waiting for them to release an album, and I was just going to do a song on that, and Witchcraft I felt was the right one. And it's funny. And I want to talk a little bit about other music videos. I kind of wanted to take different approaches. Like, I'm not a fan of, and I know there's a few people who make these kinds of videos. That's all right. I'm just not a fan of videos that are just like the band or maybe some cover band just singing into the camera and like, just playing their instruments, and that's the whole entire video. I think it's better when there's an actual story. Lip sync, sure. If you're breaking the fourth wall and they're actually singing the song, that's cool. I just felt I kind of wanted to. I didn't want to just be having a fake band singing into the camera. Fake strumming instruments. I didn't want to do that. So I wanted to make an actual story. And I think, especially with Gizzard's environmentalist themes and the story that they put in their songs, I kind of wanted to do the same thing. And some people are kind of like, someone was pressing on me like, "Evan, what's your message? What's your message, man? What are you saying to the world, bro?
Right.
Like, what's your thing?" And I was kind of just like, I mean, it's a fun good versus evil story, but if I do want to answer someone's question and say like, okay, like what's your message? What are your politics? What's your thing? I'll just say, a little band-aid on it is probably just like, evil exists. It's not just the cartoons or the things that we see in movies and stuff like this. It's real. It's around. There's no denying that. So I guess that's the one thing that, like, if you want to say, "Oh, what's the message?" It's probably that, I guess.
Right. Yeah. No, thank you for sharing. I'm sure people in the crowd are curious for that question.
Yeah, I guess. And
attached to that, this is.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you inspired a whole other question from that. This is something we've been asking a lot of our creators, and as someone who's been making films in VR for a long time, and from your own personal work, but also collaborations with various other people. What has been a key learning or some advice that you could share for people who are also interested in this landscape of filmmaking?
Okay. Awesome. All right. So yeah, key learning, first thing is, I'm I'm a young guy. I'm not exactly at professional level, even though that might say different. Everyone has their different skill set. There's some fantastic young people who make some truly amazing stuff. I can think of the guy who animated for that Lego scene in Spider-Verse, and he was 14 years old. That was amazing. There's, I guess key learning thing is kind of just like, you're never too young or old to learn something new or to try something new. But also for like general advice is that you and this is more of a industry thing, or like if you want to get into a professional field, if you want to do this for a living, not talking about VR, but just like creative stuff in general or film, you have to make stuff. You can't just sit on your butt doing little doodles and expecting to become the next Leonardo da Vinci or the next Spielberg. You have to make stuff because that's how you get better. Like my stuff 5 years ago when I first started in VR, it's my creative opinion, it's not too great, but you're never going to improve if you don't start. And you have to work for it. You have to struggle. You're going to make stuff, might not work out. I've made films and shorts that have literally nearly sent me to the hospital, and they flopped hard. So don't be disillusioned. Don't be easily
discouraged.
Discouraged. That's a really good word to say. Don't be discouraged. Just keep making stuff. That's what you gotta do. Like Bisk over there, his greatest piece of advice to me is draw till you drop. And that is definitely for anything else too.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth in that statement. And before we go to audience questions, your opportunity to share what you've got working on, what you've got in development now.
Yes, I was going to get to that. So I've got a few projects in line, not just in my school area, but also in my own personal individual stuff. So I got, of course, I'm working on Cheapest Squad Survivor Episode 7. I'm still the main writer for that, and we're working on that really, really hard. It's going to be great. And then I have a feature-length documentary called VR: A Digital Frontier that we are almost done wrapping up. And we're going to be doing some test screenings, and then we're going to just ship it out to film festivals and see how it is. Because I want to make a documentary that, now, there are some great videos about VR chat. There are some great, even feature-length documentaries about that. This guy made one. And I wanted to try also doing one that anyone can understand. I want someone who is, 60 years old, has grandkids, doesn't know a lick about technology to see this film and be like, I understand what this thing is. This is a real thing. And so that's going to be wrapping up in the next couple months. We'll be sending it out, and then we'll see about screenings and other stuff like that. And then I have a animated short. It's going to be my final project at college. It's going to be called Corner Cuisine. That comes out around March. So we're going to be doing that. And everything's on my YouTube channel, Psychedrolic. Go subscribe. Yeah.
There you go.
That's all my stuff.
That's the plug right there. That's the plug right there. Go subscribe. Check out Evan's channel. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm obviously naturally excited about your documentary, so I'm pleased that you referenced that. I'm really, really excited to see that very soon. And let's open up for audience questions. We have a good amount of time, so if anyone is curious about the making of Witchcraft specifically, we would love to hear. There's a lot to talk about.
Here he comes.
Hey, Kev.
Hello, I'm floating a little bit. Oh my goodness. Yo, that was absolutely amazing. It's a question, but it's kind of tacking on to that. So you mentioned that you used, cheaper equipment, things like that, when it came down to physical purchases. You used avatars you found in the world. There was a lot of things that you used that was already pre-made, essentially. And I wanted to add on to that, essentially, or have you tell people, like, essentially that, yeah, like, it doesn't take, the top-of-the-line equipment, it doesn't take the top-shelf stuff to make something absolutely gorgeous and beautiful, as you did here. Like, the fact that you had a Thrasher going with it, too, which is such a rare medium to have here, especially in music videos and VR chat. It's incredible. So, the question kind of goes into just, like, how would you say is the best way to help inspire people to utilize what they have in their toolkit already without having to wait for something top of line to come out? How did you get into just like, I can use this right here, I don't need to have something brand new, essentially?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. So if you want to talk about like with VR specifically, the again, like VR chat is a free platform. There's worlds that I don't imagine anyone's gonna sue you for using. There's avatars. Right. There's so many tools and things, and like when I made my first film when I was 16, I didn't have sets, I didn't have actors, I didn't have anything, and I chose these worlds, these avatars, and again, most of it was myself. There, like, if you watch the film, there's like a couple scenes where it'll just be like entire crowds, and that was just me green screening myself. And so there is so much available out there for you to use, whether you want to do it in like some professional setting or not. Is totally out there for you to use. And some people have made some amazing things on the bare bones. Like, you don't need a $15,000 cinematography or camera to make a cool film. There are so, like, all you have to do is just keep doing it. You're going to find that area of just like what works. You're gonna find that angle. You're gonna find like that workflow. Anything can be used to make an amazing film. Think like Blair Witch Project. They had just like some small
Also premiered at Raindance, by the way. Blair Witch Project premiered at Raindance Film Festival.
Blair Witch Project.
I'm sorry, I just had to say that. You brought it up, Evan, and it's a great reference in terms of the festival.
Yeah, no, Blair Witch Project was made like with some for the time it was not too great cameras, but also just had such a low budget. You can make whatever you want. You can make amazing things with the bare bones. And again, like I said before, you do not get better if you don't keep making stuff. If you don't keep doing things, you're gonna make things that suck. You're gonna make things that might not work too well, things that flop. That's okay, it happens.
You're gonna break a headset for a scene that doesn't even get used. I feel
exactly. I'm guessing you did.
No, precisely. Oh yeah, no, I stepped on my index at one point in time, and that was not great.
Oh no.
But that's besides the point. But no, seriously, like let this be a testament to that. Like, absolutely, that you don't need to have the biggest and the best, because look at all this came together and it made something absolutely incredible. So again, thank you so much for this, and thank you for helping inspire everybody with it. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kip.
Thank you, Kip. I'm so pleased that you raised that, Kip, and also Blair Witch Project too, because at Raindance, the film festival, and at Raindance Immersive, we are all about celebrating independent artists who are coming from that position of scrappiness and creating story from little materials and coming together and collaborating with people and like-minded artists to create something in a really scrappy and collaborative way. And so it's a testament to the festival as well, and we're so pleased to be representing that message in your work as well. Does anyone else have any questions?
Oh, there's one guy. It's dragging.
Granada flying in. What a beautiful entrance. Oh, careful. Are you okay?
Someone call him Meg.
Yeah.
You're right. Okay, you're fine. Not as fine.
Last screening, I wanted to do a cool entrance. I was wondering, because a lot of people on the internet use film clip, Vine, TikTok, audio, and reenact them in VR chat, using VR chat. In your case, it's a music video, but do you tag the artist to say, look at the cool thing I made? I made a music video for you, but not for you, but with your content. So, did you send your video to them?
So I did.
That's the question.
So I did. Of course, you can tag bands or celebrities on like Twitter or whatever, and most of the time they don't see it. But I've actually been in talk with. It's funny enough, for my documentary, I've been talking to their publisher for a while on using some of their music. So I wanted to say a little small thing about King Gizzard. They allow you. There's one studio album, and they allow you to use their bootlegs, most of their live albums, and one of their studio albums completely free. And what I mean by that is that you can use their music anywhere. You can use it in professional films. You can use it in your own projects. Like they are a band that does not want your money. So I would totally recommend, if you would like, go check out their bootlegs and their live albums, and then one of their albums, Polygon Awana Land. They're big on names. That one is free to use. So yeah, to answer your question, yes, I have sent the footage. I've sent the film to the publisher. She just said, "Oh, thanks for sharing." I don't know if she actually saw it, but but yes, they ask you to send anytime you use their music in any kind of film or project, to send it to them. So I did. If they've actually seen it, I don't know, but well, hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, because when I went to Ferality, they have this like an hour-long streaming of content, video, music, and why not? And they often do music video as well. I just was wondering if those people just send that to the band, and why not just look, I did something cool with your song. I don't know.
I mean, it's cool. Yeah, I totally recommend doing that. I mean, I just, in my personal experience, most people don't really respond or say anything. But as long as you make the effort to send it to them, make sure I totally recommend sending it to anyone, even if you use a piece of art from someone or a clip from something. Totally message it to them, send it to them, even if you think it might not reach them. Totally do it.
Yeah, why not? It's always fun to see someone make some kind of fan art or of your content. I was like, oh, someone care about what I did. They're passionate.
Yeah.
Okay, that was it.
Thank you.
A dramatic entrance and a dramatic exit. Fernanda. Everyone, Fernanda. Are there any final questions for Evan before we close the show? Before we close our last screening?
Do you have any questions? You have any last questions?
Oh.
Oh.
Do you want to make any final thoughts, Evan?
Biscuit!
Oh.
It's my name.
Well,
what's going on, bro?
We've heard a lot from you, Bisque, from Evan today. Do you want to share any final words about Evan's work?
Oh, this young man, he got all the potential in the world. He's learning all kinds of great things. He could be a great filmmaker someday. By the way, Evan, if someone wanted to donate any kind of funds and or assistance to the production of this particular project, where might they do that? See ya!
That's what friends are for. That is what friends are for.
I appreciate that. Okay, I don't. So it's funny because I don't really have. I don't do anything with money a lot, so I don't really work with that. But if you would like to help on any kind of project like this, whether it be ones I'm working on like Survivor or Witchcraft, we do have a film Discord for VR filmmakers. It's mostly people in the sheep group, but we get people from different areas. We would love to have you help us out. We need the actors. Actors are a little bit hard to come by. Sometimes you get way more than you need. Sometimes you get 3 people. So if you are interested in helping out anywhere in VR chat, then you can shoot us a message. My Discord is Evan the Floydian. Just Evan Floydian, same as my name. And yeah, but I do want to say, if this is the last screening, I do kind of want to say a little something too. Basically, it truly is amazing. This, Raindance Festival. But this is my first time not only attending but also being a part of it. And I want to say that from the last 5 years that I have been inside this virtual medium and gotten so many friends. I've learned more and done more than I think any school or college could ever have given me. Same goes for connections as well. It's just like this platform really is something special, and you can, be with people from all around the world. But for Raindance Film Festival, just film in VR, or maybe specifically VR chat, it's a new thing, but it'll definitely be a big thing. It's gonna be, I totally see it in pre-production, in the industry. I see it being used in small areas, like, it's kind of been used before in places like Avatar. The original, I think this platform has a great future, and this medium has a great future. And I think organizations like this, Raindance Immersive, I think it really is the future, and it's gonna be the new standard. It's gonna be the next medium. There was traditional media, then there was 3D media. I think this will be at least the next best thing, the next thing for amateur filmmakers or professionals. This is going to be a game changer. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a perfect note to close our screening on, or our final screening. Thank you so much for sharing that, Evan. It felt very much from the heart, and I know a lot of people can relate to that experience too.